Hey! What are you doing? Hey, how's it going? It's Minutia, or Austin, as I've been going by recently. And I just want to make a quick video about how much I fucking love the P-6, man. I mean, the Roland P-6 has been everything that I've wanted out of a small sampler for such a long time, and I just kind of want to go over why I think it is one of the best samplers that anybody could buy ever. It's an instant classic. It is a keeper. You are rarely going to sell this thing, and if you do, it's probably because you didn't take the time to learn it, if I'm being honest with you. So as a quick side note, so like this isn't coming out of nowhere, right? So about 2016 to 2018, I started a YouTube channel. I used to do stuff on like the Electron Dig Attack, Machine Mark III, Ableton Push 2, Novation Circuit, SP404A. I used to cover a lot of bases, a lot of more expensive items, and basically just kind of fun synth shit, right? And then near COVID, like the year before COVID, I hurt my back, a bunch of shit happened, then COVID happened. Long story short, I had to sell everything, start from square one, and that was actually kind of a blessing in disguise because it got me back into just creating with my DAW and like not really spending time, you know, just learning things, right? And not that it was bad to learn, but when you spend all of your time trying to learn new gear, you're not exactly using it or making anything cool with it, right? And then outside of that, I just didn't want to be a synth YouTuber anymore, right? Because nobody was there for my music, and that's what I wanted. You were there for the items, and like I get that. That's how I set myself up, but it's not what I wanted. That's why I kind of stopped doing all of that type of shit, right? So, but now that that's out of the way, essentially, I just kind of want to get back into it because this is the one piece of gear that I genuinely think that everybody should probably get, and it's because it is a fantastic, amazing, just Swiss Army sampler that is useful for almost anybody in any creative aspect, right? So let me start going over a couple of things that really hooked me onto it, and of course I'm going to go over some pros and cons and stuff. Like, this is going to be very off the cuff. I'm not trying to script this shit. Like I said, I'm not a synth YouTuber, man. I just make beats, I make music, I make indie shit. Go check out my music, by the way. I've been releasing new songs monthly. But yeah, so I don't know, I just want to see, if you're on the fence about this thing, I just want to give you real practical use cases of somebody who used to be a prosumer, who is now just a hobbyist, who just really enjoys his work and still finds it useful. So let's get into it. So the first things I really want to talk about are just the immediacy, right? Like let me grab it really quick, right? So I'm going to go ahead and just turn this down, pull that guy out. This is the P6, right? I would say I have relatively big hands, so it probably looks a little bit smaller than it would in person for you, but this is my phone in comparison, right? So this is a Redmi Note 11, and that is roughly approximately the size difference. So it's really not much different than the size of, like, you know, let's say a big phone, like an Oppo or something, right? And it's lightweight. It feels like a premium toy. It feels like you got the highest quality Nerf shit from the top shelf that you could possibly get. You know what I mean? Like, it's lightweight, the chassis is really nice, I like the color, but it does feel like, it feels like its price, if you know what I mean. Like, I got this as a gift when it was around $220 before taxes and shipping. Right now with tariffs and all the increases, you're looking at about $250 before taxes and shipping, which I would still say is absolutely worth it. You can't really find anything else in this price point that does as much as this does without some other caveats kind of like in the way there, right? So just build quality is fantastic. It doesn't have like velocity sensitive pads or anything like that, but they feel really good. I much prefer these pads to, let's say, the SP404A. I really didn't like the pads on those things. I got used to them, but I really didn't like them. They definitely figured it out with these here. The step sequencer patterns also are like, steps also act as like your keyboard, which is super sick, very nifty. I used to not like stuff like that, but after getting used to the Dig Attack, it really helped a lot. And I think I was somebody who relied a lot on, let's say, like scale modes and stuff to write my music, but now that I've kind of gotten to a point where I don't really have gear that does that, I've focused a lot more on working chromatically, and it has just been better for me as a producer. I think most people, especially newer producers, it's easy to get caught up in scale modes and shit like that because it seems easy to get a vibe, but nothing is going to teach you how to write music like writing chromatically and learning intervals. Like, it's just, I had to face that myself and we all got to reach there eventually. So that's why I really like having that. You know, it's just kind of a really cool bonus to have on top of things. And the immediacy, dude, like you just turn it on, you just wait for that little logo to pop up, right? So you got your little P6, and then shortly after, probably within, it takes I would say probably like 10 seconds, right, to get up there. But then you have everything on there. It runs through internal memory, so there's no SD cards or anything like that. So what you put in is what you get. You can either use it with the computer to load samples in and out, or you can just sample directly, which is oftentimes what I choose to do instead. It just, dude, you can plug it into your phone if you've got a USB port. Plug it in immediately as an audio interface. I love using it with Koala Sampler. It just fucking works, man. You could sample and resample back and forth over and over again. So you get all of the benefits of using something like Koala Sampler, all of the benefits of using a hardware unit device, such as these twiddly little knobs and the nice buttons and shit. And then it just, like I said, it just works. It's so easy. Everything is just, you could tell that they definitely took the we just want you to use it approach, not we want you to learn this approach with this item. In my opinion, at least. I know some people think it's difficult to learn. But ultimately, I mean, when it comes to like workflow and immediacy, I mean, it's just, it's awesome, dude. I don't know what else to tell you. You just plug it into whatever and it works. Or even something as simple as like, I like having it here with my desk because then I can take either my PS4 or PS5 controller, right? They've got audio, they've got audio outputs on the bottom, right? So I can just take an auxiliary cable, plug it in here, plug it into my P6, and then I have not only my PlayStation audio routing out through my studio monitors, which is big pimpin', but then I also get to just have, what's it called? Then I also get to be able to like sample the amazing soundtracks that are oftentimes found in PlayStation games, right? I think one of my lights died, don't worry about it. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to immediacy and just easy plug and play, it's all there. The only thing people aren't gonna like probably is the MIDI, like the MIDI implementation. They use the little jacks, 3.5 millimeter jacks. But I kind of like that because I can use an auxiliary cable to plug in my MIDI controller, right? I've got sorry, that was probably loud as shit. I've got an M-Wave SMC pad, and the MIDI output is a 3.5 jack also, so it kind of works out for me. I like it. This thing's also big pimpin' too. If you can get yourself one of these, I got this for like $28 on AliExpress. So if you can get this for that price, do it. You won't regret it. I'm telling you, it's awesome. Oh, okay, yeah, sound and capabilities, right? So when it comes to sound and capabilities, it's Roland, dude. You know what you expect. If you've used any of the SP series, you pretty much know what you're walking into here. You get in what you get out. You got a couple of sampling modes, a couple ways to affect things. What I like on here is you have full ADSR support, so you can take a simple note and turned it into basically a full 4-voice synth with this thing, which is so sweet, especially when you involve the looping modes and stuff like that. I just did a short the other day where I used a looping mode on a sample to recreate like vinyl scratching. Super cool. You should check it out on my shorts. But yeah, so you get 48 sample slots to work with. I think the max sample time you get is like 6 seconds. It's all mono sampling, which again, I was a Dig Attack user. I got pretty used to that. That's not something that I really care about much. And in fact, if I'm being honest, I usually prefer working with mono samples, not only because when I'm using something like this, I'm typically making lo-fi hip-hop beats, and I work in mono almost always, unless I really need that stereo sample width, or a stereo width in general for the song. Otherwise, I like to make it in mono because it helps it makes it sound old. That's just what a lot of shit sounded like back in the day. And it gives me more freedom. I have a lot more control over the space in the stereo field compared to trying to make a stereo sample fit one way or another. It's just personal preference at that point. But that's also kind of the cool part about it, is that you could have this thing be like a drum machine. You can load it up with 48 different drum samples. You could load it up with 48 different, what I'm doing right now is I've got, I think I'm using 6 of the banks as drum banks. And then 1 is a bass bank. 1 as a general SFX bank. And then I have 1 that I use for my melodic instruments. And I have, I think, maybe 1 or 2 pads that are just for sampling in, so that way I can basically guarantee that I will have that space. You know what I mean? That I'll always have a free bank so I can sample in, vinyl records, shit from YouTube, sample directly into it from its microphone. There's so many ways to just get sounds into it. And the capabilities just make it awesome. Like I've used it to write like prog metal drum patterns, and then I just, I hook it up to Ableton, record the MIDI out of it into there, and next thing you know, my drums are slamming. I just use it with Steven Slate drums or something like that. It's got basic MIDI. You can use it as a very basic MIDI controller. The knobs aren't mappable, but you can at least play notes and shit, so that's fun. And it's just the fact that it can just do so much for something that's so small. Like I said, in 2016 to 2018, this is something that I dreamed of. And so just the fact that it's real is just, it's awesome. And I've had it for almost a year now, and I just keep finding ways to use it and love it. And it's not even genre specific. It works for everything. And when it comes to let's say well, all right, so we're just gonna go ahead and leave all that shit that fell off, right? To continue. So yeah, step sequencing is great, man. It's just, it's basic. It's EXO style step sequencing. It's got very limited implementations of things like step locks. Like you can do basically start, end parameters, whatever these three knobs here do, so pitch, start, and end, pretty easy. And then everything else would be done by tapping the granular button here on a note. So let's see if I can just pick something that has a note here. And you would do the granular a couple times, and it gives you these different options. Micro timings, ratchets, probability, things like that. So it definitely gives you a lot to work with, and it's such a good tinkering tool for somebody who just wants to spend time making music in a very tactile and fun way, but it's also fast and it's immediate. It's not quite as in-depth as, again, the Electron Dig Attack, but it doesn't need to be. In fact, I think this is almost better because it's so focused. You don't have to worry about, you don't have 8 MIDI tracks that you're not going to use if you're not a gearhead. You know what I mean? You've got just what you need, where it is, when you need it, when you want it, and I think it's great. It is not a brain, right? I personally would not use this to sequence my gear. I actually don't even know what the implementation is for MIDI external sequencing outside of just note playing. So I would really not use it for that. But outside of it, as a creative sampler, I kind of think of it like this, right? You could think of it more as a creative sampler with effects that also has a step sequencer, right? So when you think about it that way, it would be like having your SP404 SX, but you have a dedicated step sequencer attached to it instead of that weird audio pattern editor that it had. So it really gives you kind of the best of both worlds without being too much, at least in my opinion of the situation. So, I pretty much covered all the things that I like about it. So, if I were to say some shit that I don't really like about this guy, probably just, battery time is really not that much. It's not it's not super powerful. It's not going to drain on its own pretty fast, but I think it only gets about 2, maybe 3 hours on a full charge if you're using it pretty consistently. Voice stealing happens pretty frequently because effects, I think, also count as voices, so that's something that you need to consider. I think it can only play, don't quote me on this, I think it can only play up to 6 to 8 notes at the same time. So that's something to think about when writing your stuff. You really have to consider the concept of voice stealing. So there's chances that you'll be writing really complicated things, and then when you go to write something else, other notes are going to disappear. And that's where you would maybe want to start, resampling and resequencing. Or at that point, you're probably ready to export to your DAW anyways. So maybe you should probably start, doing a couple stems out to the DAW, sync it up, and finish it up from there. All right, the shelves are going away too, because apparently those things can't fucking work either. God! Alright, so one of the things that I really don't like, that I really dislike, is the knob memory, right? So let's say if you're trying to mix on this thing, you'll be mixing your kick, you dial in its level, and it's at 110, let's say. So then you move on to your snare, and you want to adjust the level parameter again. It's going to remember what the memory, or what the value was of the last sample you've entered. So sometimes you just get straight up ear fucked by this thing, because you're trying to gain stage or just adjust volumes, and it immediately jumps from whatever quiet volume it was at to the loudest volume you probably just set for something else, and it can get really annoying. I wish that was fixed in some kind of update or something, but this doesn't seem like one of those items. It doesn't seem like something Roland is going to spend a lot of time updating, because it's kind of considering everything you get, it isn't the worst trade-off in the world. So I can definitely see this thing being a little bit too complicated for like a newbie as well. Like, you know, as somebody who is, I've used a lot of gear, as I've established. So this was pretty immediate to me. I already could kind of just get my way around it pretty quickly by just looking at it, right? Like step sequencing, knob turns, all that kind of shit. Like, quite frankly, once you learn Electron, a lot of this stuff becomes pretty easy and second nature, right? But I could definitely see as a newcomer coming into this that it is just overwhelming. It is incredibly dense, and it's not very descriptive what everything does here. Like, they really tried to, how do I say it? They really tried to compact everything into a readable, usable device, which it is for the experienced. For the inexperienced, it can be frustrating, it can be annoying, there's no undo button, so it's like things like, if you don't have the proper expectations, this thing is going to frustrate the shit out of you, which is why I would recommend more using it with something like Koala Sampler, or just something in conjunction where you can probably save a lot more of your work in case something goes wrong. And then this is a personal nitpick. I really don't like when companies make something like this and then don't release a proper ACO driver. I really don't like when companies do this kind of stuff and then don't release a proper ACO driver, because it makes it a little harder to use as, like, let's say like a Windows user, where MME and direct wave are just slow and inefficient and have a ton of input delay. So if you want to use it as an audio interface like I do, you need ACO for all or something similar, which really helps it. I think it brings out a whole other level to this item, and I think it makes it a lot more useful, especially if you're a Windows user. You know, you really want low latency audio a lot of the times, especially if you're recording out from this guy. So that's something to consider as well. ACO for all is free, so it's not the worst thing in the world, but, you know, there's always some kind of caveat or issue that comes along with anything technical that needs to be added in between. I can't really say there's a lot of shit that I don't like about it. You know, I do think that it's very immediate. It's fun. It's exactly what it's supposed to be and nothing else. And I think that's great. I think a lot more producers in all genres everywhere could benefit from something like this, because it's all, you like get like a ton of bells and whistles, but also no frills at the same time. And I think it just really makes the music creation process that much more special, you know? And this is the kind of device that I think is generally going to leave a legacy. You know, like the SP series and the Boss Roland has always left a big impact on culture, right? So whether it be like the, you know, the Doctor series that, you know, helped with the drum machines like the DR202 and 505, or the what's it called, you know, like the TR series, the 808 and 909, like these are drum machines and items that basically helped solidify genres as a whole and whole cultures. And this really isn't that far off. Like this is like the Gonzo graffiti artist version of a sampler. You know what I mean? Like, this is way better than you could ever get with a pocket operator. This is better than the model samples, because at least they can sample in and out. You don't have to rely on the computer for anything. You could get all of your sounds directly recorded in here in multiple ways. It fits in a backpack. It's sturdy enough. It's cheap enough that if it gets destroyed, you're not gonna fucking lose your mind. And it just has a fucking vibe, man. And there's a reason why all the bigger producers that you like are also using something like this. Like, I watch DiBiase's streams all the time, and this man is always using this thing because it's fucking sweet. Like, you know, or SPVids recently has compared it to a modern SP202 or DR202, whichever. No, SP202, yeah. Compared it to an SP202. And yeah, I could definitely see it being the modern equivalent of that, especially with like the lo-fi fidelity options on here. It's just, this is one of those timeless classics that 10 years from now, people are going to be seeking it out, but not because of its sound, but just because of how it works and how immediate it is. And it's like a pocketable best friend, man. And like I said, like between this, my battery powered MIDI controller, and my phone, dude, I could make whatever I want. I could probably make a whole album. I don't even need Ableton Live anymore. Like, I'm gonna be straight up with you. Like, I could probably survive with this for the rest of my life and still be happy making music the way that I do. So, I don't know. In short, I just wanted to gush about this little man. I just think it's so fucking cool. I haven't made a video on gear in a long, long time. And this is the first time that I felt like gear really deserved to be talked about. Especially in this economic climate where we're getting butt-fucked left and right, dude. I'm sorry, but if you're spending money on a Machine Plus and MPC Live, whatever, like, dude, you've lost the plot, if I'm being honest. Buy a computer. Buy a better computer. Buy a better laptop. Because it's just gonna be better for you monetarily. Because a lot of this stuff, when you think about it, is really, it's equity, right? Like, these are things that you buy, they lose their value but hold value till you sell it again, right? And the things that lose the most value are typically the higher priced items, you know? Whereas with this thing, I got it for $220 after tax. I'm probably, if I ever did decide to sell it, which I'm not going to, I could probably sell it for like $150 to $180. I'm really not going to take a huge loss. Whereas when I had to sell my Machine Mark III, my Ableton Push 2, my Dig Attack, I took some pretty hefty losses comparatively to what I paid for new for those items. And sure, you can buy used, but I wanted the convenience of being able to go into a store and return it if I needed to, have a 30-day return policy, all these kind of things. So it's one of those things where, like, monetarily, I just don't think there's anything that competes with this thing right now, especially for the tactile feel. Sure, you can get some other stuff that has, like, you know, touchscreens on it, you can use your phone, but it's not the same, you know? I think that this is probably one of the only DAW-less items that people could ever actually truly need right now, or not need, but could ever truly want right now, that I think would be worth it in almost every single setup, and I don't think almost anybody would consider it a waste of money. Again, if you do, you probably just haven't learned it enough yet. Like, it can fit anywhere in any setup, even just a consumer's entertainment setup. Sometimes I use it just to put live effects on YouTube videos I'm watching, because it's fun. You know, like, it pays off in spades. So, long story short, I love the Roland P-6. You probably will too. If you like the video, give us a like, thumbs down. If you don't like it, whatever, you know this bullshit. I'm not a synth YouTuber. I'm not going to try to be one. So, thank you so much for watching if you made it this far. Check out my new music, by the way. I have a lot of indie, alt-rock, alt-metal stuff going up right now, and a couple of my older beats are up still. So yeah, just check it out. And I'm going to be trying to release new music every month. So if you're interested in seeing what I do, stay tuned. Thanks for watching. I've been Minutia, Austin, whoever you know me as, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.